My name is Olga Fabrizi Harvey, and I am a field engineer for a little bit over 3 years for Liberty. Where I grew up, I was born in Moldova, and it was more of a rural setting. Growing up, it was different, very, very different. Primarily, we will cook at home. That was always the case. We always baked our own breads. Everything that we grew was that we always ate. It was not a thing of going to the grocery store. So primarily is the cooking. We had, I remember, was a stove that was built in, kind of, we'll say, a kitchen. At the same time, it was a living area as well as a sleeping area, kind of all in one, divided by 2 rooms. And it was a setting where you will use that for cooking as well as heating your environment, your home. Growing up, I had a lot of things to take care of it. I had chickens, had animals, rabbits, a lot of fruit trees. I remember that. That's something that I quite miss now. But it was a very, very different environment than how I'm living nowadays. I was primarily in the kitchen, cooking all the time, which is something that I really, really enjoy even now as an adult and at home. It's actually what calms me down if I'm nervous, for example. Still enjoy to bake my own breads. That's something that the smell of fresh homemade bread is just like nothing. It just takes you home. It's like a hug for your soul. Our daily life per se, it was kind of about waking up, you get ready for school. Breakfast was not something that was on the menu most of the days, really. And we'll kind of get ready. We'll have water that was brought from the well. We did not have running water, so it was always going to the well and 2 buckets, and you just get to the well, get your water, and walk back home. So fortunately, we had a well that was really close to the home. One of the things that I hated the most is washing my face with cold water. That's something that even till today, I don't like it. But it was something that I remember my mom saying, that's gonna wake you up, get you started, get you going. So after school, we'll come back home, we'll have chores. There was always chores, something to do. That, like I said, there was animals running around and they needed to be fed, or go in the garden. There's something to be taken care of and all that. Or during the fall, we had a lot of harvest. That's corn, and then our grapes for making wine, all that fun stuff, as well as doing conserving food for the winter. That was another part that a lot happened during the summer time and as well as fall, in order to prepare for the winter months where we didn't have anything fresh. So that was part of the daily life. The stove that we primarily used, it was primarily used for charcoal or wood. Later on, we did get a gas stove. We did acquire one, and we had like a tall tank that you will take in town and get it refilled. That it depends if you had the money, obviously, to be able to afford that. But the stove that primarily was used, it was wood and charcoal. If that was not in the budget, or you could not afford it, then we had to use the cow dung. And that was primarily made during the summer. You let it kind of dry out, and they look like huge pancakes, really. And you just kind of put it on top of each other, and you have that whenever you need it, in case you didn't have the wood or the charcoal. It was made out of metal, and it had several different sizes of rings. So that way, when the fire is going, you can take that as to have a faster cooking or slower cooking based on those rings, basically. That was our way of heating the water to take a bath, stuff like that. And the one thing that I remember, even though we had that in the home, we have a chimney. So primarily the whole fumes primarily was going out. I mean, that needed cleaning now and then because otherwise it would just come inside the home. And there were spots where there are a little bit darker spots on the stove. But I remember if that was the case, we'll open the window so that way kind of get those fumes out. But it was definitely a nice kind of setup during the winter months to have that heat. Primarily was how much faster you can get something done, right? So the cooking, it took so much less headache and to bring the wood. And if you didn't have the wood, you just have to find something else. Or if you had the wood, but it's not cut into the pieces that you needed, so you have to go out there and cut it. And that was not a challenge about doing that. But everything was so much faster. And I remember that we had kind of like a summer kitchen per se. That's where the gas stove went. And so it was getting hot there, especially during the summer, like when we're cooking. And so we kind of had the doors open to that. But it was just easier breathing, really, when you're cooking with it. And it's the better control of the fire that you have when you have a gas stove. That was another thing that it was a huge difference. You can control a lot better that way. Now, comparing the food that is cooked over wood, I will say definitely a lot better than the gas stove. But that kind of, outweighs the benefits of having a gas stove. And we still had this huge oven that we only used to bake the bread, because we baked bread that would last a whole week. And that one took a lot of wood and a lot of time to get it warm to the right temperature to bake the bread and all that. And that actually was in a separate building of the house, kind of actually detached from the home, kind of like in a garage per se, because of the size and how much heat it releases. It had to be away from that. But right there, that's where the cooking, I remember putting just throw potatoes in there and it will cook, and you just peel that, and the taste of the wood, it's just, I don't know what it is about it, just it's so delicious. But just that bread and just golden brown looking. When I turned almost 15, I moved from Moldova to Italy first. My mom has left to provide a better life for me and my brother, due to the lack of finances. She was a teacher, so she was not making nearly a lot. There were days where we didn't have food on the table, and my dad was not very present at all, and so it was up to her trying to figure it out. And so she has left me to live with one of her sisters, one of my aunts, for 4 years. And when she was able to take me, my brother's a lot older, and so she was able to take him first. She took me, and I remember exactly, it was September 1st, 2003, when I landed in Italy. That was my first time flying on an airplane. I was so excited. At the same time, very, very nervous to completely change worlds, really. And just flying and just being in a country that I didn't speak the language. And here I am trying to figure it out. But I was excited to finally be with my mom, since I haven't seen her in 4 years. While in Italy, it was one of those things that you kind of had to figure it out. 2 weeks later, I had to go to school. So in order for me to learn the language and adapt, it took a little bit. And while I was there, my mom did not speak Romanian to me at all, because it was one way of learning Italian the faster way. And plus, my stepdad was Italian as well, and so out of respect for him, we didn't want to speak a language that he didn't understand. So she put me in a school that was very close to our apartments where we lived, so that way I had the time to adjust, the time to learn how to use public transportation, which I've never done that before. In Moldova, we walked everywhere. There was no cars or anything like that. And if we needed transportation, for example, for our harvest, then we'll have a horse and a buggy that will hire people that have that. And so a year has passed, and I kind of really integrated myself in, and I learned how to get around, learn the language. And at that point, I realized that languages really comes very easy for me to learn. And so I switched myself to a language school that required to actually take public transportation and get to the school. And that's how I got introduced to exchange program. And coming to the United States has been a dream of mine since I was 7 or 8 years old. I fell in love with English language, and I always wanted to learn it. I just never had the opportunity because we didn't have English teachers back in Moldova. We only had French teachers. And I remember coming home, I was like, Mom, I have a chance. I have an opportunity to go to the United States. I really, really want to go. And she's like, are you sure? I mean, you're going by yourself. There's no family there. This is not like coming to Italy where you had somebody that you know. I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I will figure it out. I just want to get there. And of course, she helped me, and I came here in 2006. It was actually August 18th, 2006. I flew into Houston, and it's just excited. It was just the longest flight of my life because I wanted to be here and kind of see everything. Looking back, when I first moved to Italy, it was one of those shocking moments because not only talking about electricity or running water, but at the same time is having your own bathroom, having a modern toilet. Even to that degree, I didn't have that. I had an outhouse growing up. And so having that alone, it was shocking. It's like, I have my own. And I don't have to go outside in the heat or in the cold. Even I remember even talking to my mom, and then when I moved there and I saw myself, there's a dishwasher for dishes. What is that? That's something that, like, why is there a dishwasher there? We have our hands, because that's all I've done growing up. And the lights, yes, definitely a lot of lights everywhere. A lot more transportation. The quality of life in general, just being able to take a shower, just having hot water when you need it, or when you don't need it, it's there. That was another huge change for me. The launching of Better Human Lives Foundation, it has brought such a little bit of excitement, really. And it started with hearing Chris write and the passion that he has when he speaks. It's one of those that I was lucky enough to actually hear him in person. It's just, you kind of leave like in awe after you hear him speak. He just has so much passion. And I remember it started all with a post that he posted on LinkedIn, and I kind of wanted, like, this is just such a straight up like message of to the little girl that I was, because he described the exact same condition that I grew up in. And it's just something like, okay, you need to say something. You need to say something. And especially being the company that I work for, and it's somebody that has taken that initiative into helping such a great cause. It just brings me like overwhelming joy, really, to have somebody that was blessed to be born in an energy-enriched country versus to somebody that wasn't, and he has so much passion for people that don't have that privilege. And it's to put yourself before other people. It's being part of something bigger than yourself. Really, being part of this, it's overwhelming, honestly. Even today, when we know that a lot of people have access to clean cooking, it's very sad, really, and it shouldn't be this way. When we know the effects that it has on health, on the opportunities that they're missing because they don't have access to it. I mean, when we think about energy, when we think about electricity, it just gives us the tools to advance as humans, to grow, to move forward, and to have access to information, to have access to transportation, to be able to sit in our homes when it's cold outside with shorts on, and you don't have to think or say it's cold, I need to put more layers on. And to think that somebody like that is thinking for others, I think that's the thing that it overwhelms me. It's actually somebody that is thinking about others and not themselves. And to my surprise, even being the CEO of my company, that's another thing. And I wanted to do anything that I can to help to broaden that vision that Better Human Life Foundation has, and to possibly be an asset. And how I'm doing now is just to spread the word, to share my story, and saying that even in today's world, we're still battling this challenge, and that just by a little bit of giving, by a little bit of innovation, by speaking to others, by traveling, by seeing with our own eyes, we can change that. We can help change the trajectory of a family and help support communities, and just in general give somebody a better life conditions in general.